connected. Play a podcast, but it's not playing for some reason. Well, I know why. I should know it. Oh, damn it. So annoying. Oh, I hate it when my shit falls off. It's like MagSafe, super strong magnets, supposedly. But yet, you go over a bump and your damn phone falls. I need to get one of the rings, like one of the metal rings for the O-Snap case. So that way I can stick the O-Snap, not case, but stick the O-Snap, one of the old grips that I have, one of the older O-Snap grips that I have. And that way I can just stick it to this. I mean, I can stick it, I can use it on the phone. Oh my goodness. The 4 or whatever is on the phone that I'm using to record live stream. That's the newest one. But when they came out with that one, they made it so that way you can't, like, so the older ones, they gave you a ring, and you stuck the ring to the phone, and you could buy extra rings if you wanted to, like, interchange your cases or whatever, and then you could just move the grip from, like, phone to phone. It was pretty cool. It was great. But then the new on the actual grip, I think it also has like a metal ring too, but like you pull the adhesive off and then you stick it on the back of your phone case, and then it's like, but you can't interchange it. Like you can't like take it off and switch it for a different color, or you can't, like, I don't know why you would buy multiple $40 things, but like you can't interchange it between cases either. But like that was one of the things I really liked about the O-Snaps, is that you could take the ring, like you could buy multiple of the metal ring, the magnet, like to stick to your cases, so that way you could stick it on different cases, and then you could just take the grip part off and switch it out. And I thought that was really cool. But now with the newer one, you can't do that. Well, actually, they have an even newer one now, I think, because when I looked at their website, it's not the same as the one that they had last time, like when I bought my last one. Oh, that looks neat. But either way, I don't want to have to go through and buy a whole nother one. Like, it's annoying. So, and it's just like, if you're someone who, you know, puts the one case on and you never change your case ever, like ever, that's fine. Like, or if you're gonna stick it actually on your phone itself, like, cool, because then you don't have to worry about it, because you're not switching it, you don't need to change it. But I don't know, it's just frustrating. I mean, I still would definitely 100% recommend them, because they're freaking amazing. But I liked the fact that you could interchange the older ones better. I like the fact with the older ones you can interchange them. But like, however, with the newer one, the thing I like about the newer one though, ooh, an airplane, is that with the newer one, I don't know about the new one that they have on their site now, but the newer one that I have, it didn't break as easy. So like the first one I had didn't break. It was amazing. Oh my goodness! You know, I specifically ordered this phone case because it was like supposedly like super strong magnets. Lies. Like, it's the second time since second time since driving today that I've had this phone case on and it's fallen off the damn thing. So annoying. I think part of the reason why the newer one doesn't have the magnet on it, I mean the metal ring on it, might be because they were trying to make it thinner, and maybe it's thinner without the metal ring. Because I know they're advertising it basically as it's so thin that it like is thinner than the bumps on your camera bumps. Oh, this case also doesn't stick out as far for the camera bumps either. Light liquors. Oh goodness, that's a big divot. Gala Road. I like her dress, it's pretty. It's a little low cut in the front for me, but I liked running. I really wish I did. Oops, I missed the turn. doggy. Are you really letting your dog like just like walk all over that person's property? Oh, is your doggy? I wanna pet the doggy. I love the doggy. Looks like I gotta turn left. Here. Private property, no trespassing. Okay, well, my GPS is telling me I need to trespass. Sorry. Ooh. Oh, duckies. There's a whole beach right there. Oh, that's nice. It's like a marsh. I hope I don't get stuck in the sand. Oh, looks like the houses are actually up there. That's fantastic.
The customer requested you leave the order at their door. They added the following instructions. Leave at my door.
Yeah, I hear you. Oh, okay, here's the door. I mean, not the door, but here's the... I'm over here like, oh no. Okay, so like this entire fucking podcast is just unavailable. I don't understand why. What the hell? So
Service Fusion is business management software purpose-built for field service pros. Our software streamlines scheduling, so plumbers
just
don't
gonna
lose
say it
their
ahead of time. I do not own the podcast.
electricians stay current. It makes
Not
customer
my work.
management a breeze.
I do
so
not take
HVAC
credit
techs
for
don't
it.
break a sweat. It provides
I'm
in-depth
just
data
listening to it
reporting,
for
so
entertainment,
overhead
and you guys get
companies
to
know
listen
your
along
overhead.
with me.
And it makes dispatching a snap, so locksmiths stay locked in. Visit servicefusion.com for more info and
I
fewer
want
bad puns.
Monster.
Thanks for listening to Dark Histories. Before we start,
I've never
just
listened to
want
this
take
one
a second
before,
to thank all the
so
people who support the show and help make it sustainable, both on Patreon and by signing up to Audible via the Dark Histories affiliate link. You can find links to both of those in the show notes if you're interested, or you can help out just by sharing the show with people who you think might be interested on social media or with all the good people you might know. Alright, let's get on with the episode. Cheers. Whitechapel, East London, home to one of England's most renowned, brutal and evasive serial killers of all time, Jack the Ripper. We explore these murders from the brutal beginnings to the mysterious end. This is Dark Histories, where the facts are worse than fiction. Hello and welcome to Season 1, Episode 1 of Dark Histories. This is actually a re-recording of the earlier episodes because my equipment's come along quite a long way, and I look back at these episodes and I used to think, you know, I can record them at a much higher quality now. So I'm going to work through. So if you're going back to these and listening chronologically through the back catalogue, you might notice like a little drop off in quality at some point, and that's just because I haven't caught up, because I'm just recording them as and when I can and replacing them. So yeah, this is something I wrote quite a while back now, but I think the back catalogue deserves a better microphone, so I'm going to go back through them. So let's get on with it. This is a story that doesn't really need an introduction, the Whitechapel murders. In 1888, England was ruled by Queen Victoria, the British Empire was in full swing, and London was the largest capital city in the world. East London, however, did not reflect this period's supposed prosperity. It was a densely populated area where the residents lived in poverty, amongst the highest crime rates and with little future prospects. Whole families were often residing in just one room. Whitechapel, a district of East London, had the highest crime and death rates of the city. It was also home to much of the immigrant communities, leading to high racial tensions, exacerbated by high unemployment and overcrowding. There are many law-abiding and hard-working citizens. However, there are also many slums and ghettos full of drunken violence and crime. For the poorest, housing came in the form of lodgings or bunk houses. These were large buildings where people could rent a bed for the night, or if they couldn't afford that, they could sleep standing up, propped up by a rope. Many of the bunk houses were crumbling, and upkeep was often overlooked by the landlords. The roads and alleyways around the bunk houses were often dark, winding, and full of squalor. The East End could certainly be a pretty grim place, full of anxiety and fear, poverty and crime. Many women who had found themselves on hard times took to prostitution to fund their beds in the bunk houses. These were women of an East End underclass who were poor, desperate, and struggling. It was these working women that would become the focus of a murderer who arose in Whitechapel during 4 months in 1888 causing fear among England's populace with a brutal series of murders, Jack the Ripper. Though there are 5 canonical or accepted victims of Jack the Ripper, there are theories that his murders may have escalated in brutality, and some earlier attacks may be attributed to him. These attacks have been debated for years, some debunked and others still open to interpretation. Considering the violence at the time, there are many possible victims that could have been Jack's early attacks. We will focus on just 2 murders prior to the canonical 5, as whether or not they were Ripper killings. The first marks a landmark in the history of the Ripper case, and the second is classed by many to be the likeliest non-canonical victim, and still holds the subject of many heated debates. Emma Smith suffered a brutal attack on the night of 3rd of April, 18 attack, and finally, through coercion from 2 women from her lodging house, made it to the London hospital on Whitechapel Road. She spoke to the doctors there, and she explained that she had been beaten and robbed by a gang of men. Emma Smith died that morning, on the 4th of April. Her story of being attacked by a gang of men is largely accepted. Therefore, it's unlikely it was a Ripper attack. However, her death marks a landmark in the Ripper case, being that it saw the opening of the Whitechapel murders file by the police. This file would later go on to encompass the Ripper killings. Martha Tabram was a prostitute in her late 30s. During the late hours of August the 6th, she was working with her friend Marianne Connolly. They had picked up 2 soldiers and then split up, presumably to get to business. Her body was found in the early hours of the morning on the 7th of August by John Saunders Reeves, who was on his way to work. She was found sprawled out on the landing of the George's Yard buildings, arms and hands by her sides and legs open. She had been brutally stabbed 39 times. The soldier in this story would be the natural first suspect. However, despite a lineup, neither soldier was ever identified. 2 other witnesses had passed by the scene at earlier times of the night, and they had not seen Martha's body, but this may be attributed to the darkness of the buildings themselves, being that there was no lighting. It could be argued that perhaps she was not killed by the soldier at all, but rather a different client from later in the night. Further arguments state that her body was found close to the Ripper heartland, and that her wounds were concentrated in much the same areas of the body of the later Ripper victims, though her throat was not cut. Several of the detectives and important police figures who worked on the Ripper case themselves considered Martha Tabram to be the first Ripper victim, leaving it open to many still today to be the most likely non-canon attack to have been by the Ripper himself. The brutality of the murder shocked East London, though this was just the beginning of what was to be the bloody and gruesome 4 months for Whitechapel. Marianne Nichols was a small woman in mid to early 40s. She had lived a colourful life, had been married for 24 years and had 5 children. After many separations, she finally left her husband for good in 1881 and began living as a prostitute. She had turned to drink and was an alcoholic, moving from workhouse to workhouse throughout London. After landing a job as a maid, she stole clothing from her employers and took flight back to the workhouses that she had been so familiar with. In the early hours of August 31st, she had met her fellow prostitute Emily Holland walking through Whitechapel Street on the corner of Osborne Road, just a stone's throw away from the scene of early attack victim Emma Smith. She was apparently drunk and having some trouble supporting herself without the aid of the walls, and told Emily that she had had her DOS money 3 times that day, but she'd just drunk it all away. Ominously, she then told Emily that she would soon be back before disappearing down Whitechapel Street and into the night. At 3:45 a.m, Marianne Nichols' body was discovered by Charles Cross on Bucks Road whilst he was on his way to work. Upon seeing the body, he called to his friend across the street. The 2 observed her and believed that she was possibly still breathing. They arranged her skirt to allow her some decency, and they agreed to tell the first police officer they saw about their discovery and continued their walk to work. On Baker's Road, they met PC Jonas Misen and told the officer of their grim discovery. Meanwhile, however, PC John Neal had also discovered the body whilst walking his beat. He signalled to PC John Taine, who joined him, and the duo was soon joined by Misen. PC Taine went to a nearby house to call on the local doctor, Reese Ralph Llewellyn, who returned to Mary Ann Nichols' body with PC Tang, but pronounced her dead at the scene, though only by minutes. Mary Ann Nichols' body was found in a busy industrial area of Whitechapel. On one side of the street were warehouses and factories, and on the other, terraced houses belonging to tradesmen. Her body lay below one of the windows of the houses, though when questioned, the residents claimed to have not heard any disturbances. She had minimal possessions, a comb, white pocket handkerchief, and a piece of broken mirror. Dr. Llewellyn was of no doubt that she was killed where she lay, on the street of Bucks Row, her blood running into the gutter by her side. At the inquest, her wounds were described. She had several bruises to her face and several cuts across her abdomen, along with 3 or 4 deeper cuts running downwards from her abdomen. Mary Ann Nichols was well known and well liked in Whitechapel. Her friends knew her affectionately as Polly, and they were moved to tears when identifying her body. Her father, ex-husband, and eldest son paid for her funeral, and she was buried in a polished elm coffin in the City of London cemetery. The Ripper had given London a taste of what was to come. Mary Ann Nichols was poor, and she had no valuables to steal. Her killing was violent and senseless, and it would not be long before he would strike again. In the days following Mary Ann Nichols' murder, the press and local residents of Whitechapel had begun to panic, attributing the murder to that of a madman who had been able to vanish amongst the morning foot traffic. The fear was creeping in. Annie Chapman was 47 years old. She was petite, standing only 5 feet tall. She had married and had 3 children, though her youngest had died at the age of only 12 with meningitis. She had separated from her husband in 1885, though reasons are uncertain. It's heavily likely that both husband and wife were deeply into drink at the time. She received an allowance from her ex-husband, though after his death in 1886, she took to prostitution to make her living. She resided at Crossingham's lodging house in Spitalfields, and was seemingly in something of a stable relationship with a man there named Edward Stanley, who often paid the rent for her bed. On the morning of the 8th of September, Annie Chapman was seen several times in the kitchen of her lodging house. She was drinking beer with Frederick Stevens, another lodger, around midnight. She then appeared to go to bed. However, it's likely that she had in fact left, as she was seen later returning eating a baked potato by John Evans, the night watchman. He had been sent to collect her lodging money, which she did not have. Annie went to see Donovan, the house manager, to explain that she had no money for her bed, but told him not to worry, for "I'll soon be back." She asked for her bed to be kept for her. John Evans watched her leave and turned towards Spitalfields Market around 1:30 a.m. At 5:30 a.m, Annie was seen talking to a man at Hanbury Street by Elizabeth Long. The man had his back towards Elizabeth, who stated that she heard him ask Annie, "Will you?" to which Annie replied, "Yes." Annie's body was found at 6 a.m, laying in the backyard of 29 Hanbury Street by a resident who lived on the 3rd floor with his family. Upon discovering the body, he alerted 3 men on Hanbury Street and then went to Commercial Street Police Station. Annie's attacker had used a sharp knife to cut her throat. The wound was jagged and appeared to reach right around her neck. There was blood on the ground by her head and fence directly behind her. The murderer had then gone on to cut her abdomen clean open. Her intestines were removed and placed by her shoulder. Her uterus, upper parts of her vagina, and 2/3 of her bladder had also been removed, but no trace of these parts were left at the scene. Dr. George Baxter Phillips, upon describing Annie's body at the inquest later, remarked that her wounds could not have been done in such a way through surgery without taking the better part of an hour. These are the comments that would later light the fire of debate that Jack the Ripper was a skilled surgeon or butcher, or at least someone who was well trained with a knife, and possessing some anatomical knowledge. This is a debate that still rages today. Annie's possessions were a small piece of muslin, a comb, and pills. It was later discovered that she was dying either from tuberculosis or syphilis, and had been suffering for some time prior to her murder. Her funeral was held in secrecy by her closest family, so that only her relatives attended to avoid public attention. With Annie's death, the press had gone into overdrive reporting the murder with extreme language and gruesome imagery. They published outlandish theories and criticised the police. Panic had struck Whitechapel following the second murder. The nightmare of the Ripper had begun. As panic and fears swept through East London, a new inspector was drafted in to take care of matters on the ground, Frederick Aberline. He was well respected, and one aspect of his appointment was thought to be to stabilise the public perception of the police at the time. There were many accusations, suspects, and even arrests, the most famous being a man nicknamed Leather Apron. He provided an alibi for the murders, and he was released by the police. Almost 3 weeks passed before Jack would resurface, this time giving himself a name which would become infamous the world over for over 100 years. Elizabeth Stride was a 45-year-old Swedish woman. She had moved to London in 1866, and by 1888 she was living in the lodging houses on Flower and Dean Street in Whitechapel, working. Schwartz believed he was being followed, but he ran away from the scene until the second man did not follow. At 1 a.m, Louis Dimeshurst entered Dutfield's yard on his pony and car. His pony refused to enter the yard, and although he could not see anything, as the yard was pitch black, Dimeshurst thought that perhaps something was blocking the path. Using his whip, he probed the ground ahead of him and came into contact with a woman's body. Assuming that she was either drunk or asleep, he entered the working man's club at the back of the yard to get some help. Upon returning with Isaac Kozabrodsky and Maurice Eagle, the three men discovered that she was dead. It was the body of Elizabeth Stride. She was lying on the ground, head against the wall of the yard with her throat cut. Upon the police and Dr. Blackwell, the doctor noted that her body was still warm, and he judged that by the severity of the cut to her throat, she would have bled to death in around 1 minute. If we gauge the timings, it's very likely that Israel Schwartz was the only man to have seen Jack the Ripper at the time of the murder. It's also very possible that Jack had been in the yard at the same time as Louis Dimeshurst when he arrived, perhaps cutting his brutal killing short of any further mutilations. The calling out of Lipsky to the second man has caused much debate as to whether or not Jack the Ripper was Jewish, or perhaps worked with an accomplice in his murders. However, Inspector Aberline himself did not suspect the second man to be an accomplice at all, and suggested that the murderer was not calling out to him, rather than to Schwartz himself, hoping that he would flee. A year previous, a Jewish man named Lipsky had been hung for a murder of a woman, and the name Lipsky had become a common insult used towards Jewish people at the time. Indeed, upon questioning, Schwartz could not be sure to whom the man was addressing. It does appear, however, that, despite these close calls, Jack was not finished for the night. Rather than fear of capture, he was, perhaps, frustrated that his work had been cut short. At almost the exact same moment that the body of Elizabeth Stride was discovered in Dutfield's yard, Catherine Eddowes was being released from Bishopsgate Police Station. She was a prostitute who had been arrested earlier that night for being drunk and disorderly, but she had sobered up enough for the on-duty police officer to release her. She left the police station with a simple farewell. Good night, old cock. Catherine Eddowes was 46 years old. She had been, if not married, in a stable relationship and had had 3 children prior to her arrival in 1881 to the workhouses of Flower and Dean Street. She was not known as a prostitute and was thought to have been in a relationship with a man named John Kelly, nor was she an alcoholic, though it had been noted that she would occasionally fall to drink.
Oh, the doggy is so cute. Alright, be right back.